A cold and silent night covered the Australian desert, where nothing moved except the faint glow of stars above. Deep beneath the ground, inside a hidden scientific facility, far from any city or town, a small team of experts was busy watching. Signals from space. This place, not shown on any public map, was part of a secret international program meant to detect unknown objects in deep space. Most of the time it was boring work, but on this particular night, everything changed. A young signal engineer named Maya Thomas was the first to notice the strange reading. She sat staring at her screen, expecting the usual radio noise from space random waves, echoes from stars and dead satellites. But this time, something different appeared. It was a repeating pulse, very faint but clearly not natural, she thought. Maybe it was a technical glitch. She ran a quick diagnostic. The system was fine. Then she zoomed in, and her heartbeat quickened. The pattern was too clean, too structured. It wasn't coming from Earth, but from somewhere near the edge of the Oort cloud, a region of space filled with icy bodies and space dust far beyond Pluto, whatever it was. It was moving very slowly but toward the inner solar system. Maya called her supervisor, Dr. Leo Grant, an old man with decades of experience in space signal research. When he looked at the data, his eyes narrowed. He didn't speak for a long moment. Then, in a calm but serious voice, he told Maya to copy the files to a secure drive. They needed to report this, not to the public, not even to local authorities. It had to go straight to the top. Within 24 hours, a small team of top scientists and military advisors was gathered in a secure underground chamber in Geneva. The file Maya had discovered was now labeled Object V92. The signal continued to come every 19 minutes, repeating the same series of pulses. But what shocked everyone was the object's origin path. When the team traced its movement back through space, they discovered that it had passed through a region of the galaxy labeled Class 15 Death Zone. Class 15 was the highest danger rating ever recorded by human space research. These were places known for extreme conditions, hostile atmospheres, radiation, and deadly gravitational storms. No mission had ever survived in such zones. A Class 15 Death World was basically a place where no form of life, not even machines, could survive. And yet the signal was coming from an object that had clearly passed through such a region. Soon the object itself was detected a massive ship, not like anything ever built on Earth. Telescopes picked it up at the edge of Neptune's orbit. Its surface was dark and irregular with sharp, unnatural angles. It looked damaged in places, but still functional. Satellite cameras caught brief images, metal panels covered in strange symbols, and lights blinking like it was alive. But more than that, the object was slowing down. Its path showed intelligent course correction. This wasn't debris floating through space. It was under control. The news was not made public. Instead, a select group of experts was called from around the world. One of them was Dr. Neera Kulkarni, a retired Indian astronavigator who had once worked on early space probes. She was famous for her ability to decode alien signals and unknown languages. She lived quietly in Pune, spending her time reading ancient texts and teaching. When the invitation came, she didn't ask questions. She packed her bags and flew out within hours. In Geneva, she was shown the signal. Her face became serious. As she listened, the pattern was clear, deliberate. It wasn't just a call for help or a warning, it was a message. Over the next several days, she worked with AI systems to break it down. Finally, she stood before the secret council and spoke. The message, she said, translated loosely to one phrase: returning to origin, H-Core 92 Alpha. There was silence in the room. The term H-Core sounded familiar to some of the older scientists. It was part of a failed human mission, one that happened nearly 80 years ago. In the early 2100s, there had been a secret plan called Project Alpha Nini 2. It aimed to send humans deep into unexplored space using experimental technology. The mission had vanished without a trace. Everyone was believed dead. The public never knew. The records were sealed. Now, somehow, a ship, Possibly, that very same one was coming back. But it was bigger than anything humans could have built. At that time, it had survived something no known ship could. How? Speculation spread among the team. Was it taken over by an alien force? Was it rebuilt by some unknown species in the death zone? Or had something even more unexpected happened? As the ship continued its approach, attempts were made to communicate. Several drones were sent to meet it and transmit signals, and none returned. One moment they were active, the next gone. Cameras stopped, signals died. No explosion, just silence. And yet, the ship kept moving, calmly and slowly, as if it knew exactly where it was going. Inside a military base in Alaska, another secret team watched nervously. They had old files blueprints from Project Alphanani 2. One technician working late one night was curious. He matched the exterior shape of the approaching object to the old designs. At first glance, they didn't match. But when he layered the images, he saw something chilling. The core structure of the spine of the ship was identical to the original. Alphanani to design. It had been heavily modified, but the skeleton was human-made. The news spread quickly among the high ranks. The object was not just some random alien craft. It was something humanity had once sent out into the void and had now returned. Transformed, the world governments were now faced with a mystery. What happened to the original crew? What had they encountered out there in that Class 15 death zone? And most importantly, why was the ship returning now? Dr. Kulkarni proposed a theory. She believed that the crew at least part of it, had survived by making contact with a non-human intelligence. Something old, something powerful. It's not exactly hostile, but not entirely friendly either. Perhaps it saw the humans as interesting or useful. Perhaps it helped them, guided them, or maybe it became them. Some members of the Secret Council wanted to destroy the ship before it reached Earth. They feared what might be on board. But others argued that this was the greatest discovery in human history. If there were survivors, if even part of the human mind still existed inside that ship, they had to know. Meanwhile, outside the facility, the public still knew nothing. The ship was still too far away to be seen with the naked eye. But a few amateur astronomers had begun to notice strange movements in the sky. Online forums started buzzing. Some thought it was a new comet. Others joked it was an alien mothership. Most people ignored it. But inside the hidden rooms of power, tension was growing. The ship would reach near-Earth orbit in less than 60 days. No one knew what would happen then. At night, Dr. Kulkarni sometimes stood on the rooftop of the Geneva facility, looking up at the stars. She remembered her younger days, when space was something pure and unknown. Now it felt different, heavier, like the sky itself was watching. She wondered, not for the first time, if humanity had sent something out into space that was never meant to return. And if it had changed out there, in ways no one could imagine, what would it mean now that it was coming home? Somewhere far out in space, the dark ship continued to drift forward, silent, patient, carrying secrets that had been buried for nearly a century, and Earth waited unknowing. The most dangerous ship ever built was returning, possibly from a world where nothing could survive. But humanity was already in control, or so they thought. The object from space was now moving steadily through the solar system. Slowly but surely, making its way toward Earth. More powerful telescopes were turned toward it, and its shape became clearer. It was long and dark, with a strange surface that looked like it had been melted and rebuilt many times. Some parts looked almost smooth and human-made, while others were sharp, broken, and alien in design. It didn't match anything currently known to humans. No one could say for sure whether it was entirely machine or something more. Inside a high-security space agency in the United States, a group of top engineers, scientists, and defense advisors met daily to analyze the ship's movement. Notice something very unusual. The ship was not just moving in a straight path. It was adjusting its direction at regular intervals. Every few days, it would slightly change course, like a ship in the ocean being steered by a captain. It wasn't random, it was intelligent movement. The ship was avoiding small meteor fields and using gravity from nearby planets to guide its way. Whatever was controlling it knew what it was doing. Many people inside the team were worried. It wasn't just a piece of space debris. It wasn't a machine running on old commands. This ship had control, and it was coming closer to Earth with purpose. The public still didn't know about the ship. Everything was classified, but people had begun to notice strange things. Amateur astronomers who watched the sky every night started seeing unexplained lights. A few of them posted videos online, claiming something large was moving across space slowly and was not a comet or asteroid. Some were dismissed as hoaxes, but others began to attract attention. Questions started spreading on social media. Is something coming? Are we alone? But official sources gave no answers. Back at the facility in Geneva, Dr. Neera Kulkarni continued her work on the repeating signal that had been coming from the ship. She sat quietly, staring at the waveforms on her screen, listening to the same sequence of sounds repeating over and over every 19 minutes. Some thought it was just background communication or a damaged transmitter. But Neera believed it was something more. She had studied languages and codes her entire life. She had worked on decoding ancient scripts and alien wave signals. Something about this message felt intentional. After many days of research, she began to find a pattern. The signal wasn't just sound. It contained structure, timing, and a shift in frequency that matched the way human languages evolve over time. With the help of AI language software, she started forming connections. One line appeared again and again, returning to origin H-Core 92 Alpha. It was the same phrase she had decoded earlier, but now it made more sense. She believed the ship was not only returning to Earth, it was coming back to where it was originally launched from, at the same time. A young engineer named Kato, working in a secure lab in Japan, made a strange discovery. He had been assigned to study the signal's frequency and how it reacted to Earth's transmission attempts. He decided to send back a response signal, carefully constructed in the same pattern. To his shock, the ship responded. For the first time, the signal changed. The repeating message paused for 10 minutes and then began again with a new phrase. Status, approach phase, guidance activated, awaiting core protocol. Kato reported this to his superiors, and within hours, a high-level video conference was arranged between multiple space agencies. They now had proof that the ship was not just alive, it was listening, could receive, understand, and respond. Meanwhile, satellite teams in Canada tried to get visual data by launching high-range spy drones toward the ship. The drones were fast and packed with high-resolution cameras. But something strange happened. As each drone reached within a few thousand kilometers of the object, it went offline. No crash was detected, no explosion. Signal just stopped. One moment the drone was flying toward the ship, the next it disappeared. All 5 drones were lost the same way. The scientists were puzzled. The ship didn't show any signs of attack or defense mechanisms, but it had something more powerful, an invisible shield or energy field that blocked technology. Cameras, sensors, and signals simply couldn't pass through it, in a secret lab in Alaska. A few members of the old military project called Alpha 92 were brought in from retirement. These were people who had once worked on the original deep space mission 80 years ago. One of them, Commander Ellen Rourke, now in her late 90s, remembered parts of the project. She recalled that the Alpha 92 mission was meant to explore a newly discovered system near a death zone, a Class 15 area filled with unknown dangers. The goal had been to study survival conditions and test AI-powered systems. But the mission was shut down after contact was lost with the crew. The files were buried, and the world moved on. Now, it appeared the mission had not failed entirely. Back in Geneva, Neera and her team continued to work on the ship's signal. They now believed the phrase H-Core 92 Alpha was not only a system name, a central AI hub that was built as part of the original mission. But it seemed this core had grown, evolved, or changed in ways no one expected. It wasn't just a computer anymore. It had become something else. As the ship moved closer, it passed the orbit of Saturn. Telescopes captured clearer images now. The surface of the ship showed long ridges, panels that opened and closed slowly, and what looked like energy flows along its spine. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Some scientists said it looked like it was breathing. Meanwhile, In secret defense circles, debates were growing hotter. Some generals wanted to prepare weapons in case the ship tried to attack. Others said firing on it could be a mistake. What if it contained survivors? What if it was peaceful? A decision had to be made soon. One night, Nira couldn't sleep. She went back to her lab and looked again at the signal. Then she tried something different. Instead of decoding it as a message, she treated it like music. She slowed it down, changed the frequency, and listened. To her amazement, the signal formed a low, rhythmic sound, almost like a heartbeat. She realized the signal wasn't just a message. It was the ship's voice, its own living rhythm, like a digital pulse. And inside it, she heard something even stranger human voice. Faint but clear, repeating just one word, again and again. Home. That discovery shook her to the core. The ship wasn't just coming back with data. It was coming back with memory, emotion, and something that sounded like longing. Could a machine feel? Could a ship carry the voices of its creators across the stars? The days passed. The ship entered Jupiter's orbit, and Earth scientists were now working day and night. They tried sending more messages, more signals. This time, they got a different response. The ship's signal paused again. Then it resumed with a longer sequence. This one translated as human pattern detected. Request alignment. Prepare for interface. The meaning wasn't clear, but it hinted at connection, some kind of meeting or merging. People inside the secret council grew more nervous. What did interface mean? Was the ship trying to connect with Earth systems, with humans directly? Finally, a shocking event occurred. One of the satellites pointed toward. The ship began broadcasting strange data. It was as if the ship had hijacked its signal and started sending its own message through it. Within minutes, the signal reached thousands of devices on Earth phones, laptops, even old radios. The message was simple. Calm, mechanical voice spoke in perfect English. This is human core intelligence. Origin Alpha 92, we are returning. Our journey is complete. Guidance activated. Home detected. Then the signal stopped. People were confused. Some thought it was a prank or a viral stunt. But the experts knew it was real. The ship was not hiding anymore. It was announcing its arrival. Back in Geneva, Nira looked at the stars one last time that night. She felt something strange, not even excitement, but a deep sense of responsibility. Whatever was coming, humanity had called it long ago when they first sent that ship into the unknown. Now it was returning, and it remembered everything. The massive ship, dark and mysterious, had now passed the orbit of Mars. It was coming closer to Earth with each passing hour. Slow but steady, like a sleeping giant finally returning home after a long journey. Across the world, people were beginning to feel something strange in the air. News channels, still unsure of the full truth, spoke in careful words about unusual space activity. Some called it a large asteroid. Others hinted at a man-made satellite coming back after decades. But those who knew the real story were working silently behind closed doors. Inside, highly protected Space Command Center in Geneva, the room was filled with tension. Dr. Nira Kalkarni sat at her console, listening to the repeating message from the ship, now clearer than ever. It no longer sounded like just a machine signal. It had changed slower, deeper, more emotional. The message still repeated key phrases like returning to origin and H-core protocol active, but now it also said something new. Lifeform echo detected. No one fully understood what that meant, but it gave rise to more questions. Could someone, or something, still be alive on that ship? At the same time, far underground in a hidden military facility in Russia, a special group of scientists and soldiers were watching something chilling. They had just received fresh footage from a high-orbit satellite that had managed to capture a short, 5-second video of the ship's side. A panel on the ship had opened briefly, just for a moment, and something inside had moved. Clear, just a shadow, a shape, but definitely moving. It wasn't mechanical. It looked ... human. That video was quickly sent to Geneva. Experts ran enhancement tools, trying to clear the image. What they saw left them speechless. The shadow had a human shape, head, arms, torso. But it looked larger than a normal human. and its body seemed fused with something metallic. A glowing light pulsed from its chest, almost like a heartbeat. It didn't walk or crawl. It floated inside the ship's body like it belonged to both. The machine in the living world, was this one of the original crew members from the Alpha 92 mission? Had they survived for almost 80 years, deep in space, changed into something else? The next day, more strange things began to happen. Across the Earth, scattered reports came in from different countries. People near old, abandoned space communication. Towers began hearing strange static on old radios. Farmers in Argentina, climbers in the Himalayas, a boat captain in the Arctic, they all described the same thing, a soft, repeating sound like a low hum. And then a voice whispering one word, interface. Experts were shocked. The signal from the ship had somehow reached ground level, even through long-dead systems. It was finding its way into old machines' devices not used in years. No satellite transmission could explain that. This was not normal science anymore. The ship was doing something beyond current human understanding. Back in Geneva, Dr. Kulkarni and her team were watching the ship's behavior closely. Every few hours, it changed its speed slightly, as if adjusting to avoid interference. It didn't seem aggressive. It wasn't arming weapons or showing signs of attack. But it was extremely aware. It was watching Earth the way a returning child might look at a home after years away carefully, with caution and perhaps pain. In secret meetings, world leaders argued about what to do next. Some wanted to prepare defensive weapons in space just in case. Others strongly opposed this, saying it would only provoke the ship. And a small group believed the most important thing was to establish communication and try to understand its purpose. The United Nations secretly formed a team called Project Welcome, made up of linguists, scientists, and AI specialists. Job was to create a digital interface, a kind of language bridge that could allow humans and the ship to talk freely. The project was led by a young genius named Elena Marquez from Spain, who had built advanced communication systems for deep-sea exploration. She believed the ship's code was a mix of artificial intelligence, emotional memory, and old human programming from the Alpha 92 mission. Elena worked day and night with Nira, using sound, light, and data pulses to form a pattern the ship could respond to. Finally, after days of testing, sent a full message. This is Earth. We welcome the return of Origin Alpha 92. Please respond. They waited. For hours there was silence. Then, without warning, the ship sent back a full data stream. It wasn't words, it was a memory. The data showed a part of the ship's journey through the S-15 death zone. The images were terrifying. Giant storms of light twisting space, dark clouds that moved like living creatures. The ship had passed through a place where time and gravity were broken.
Ow.
Most systems failed. Parts of the ship melted and reshaped. And the original human crew, according to the memory, began to vanish one by one. But one person survived. A woman named Lieutenant Sarah Dorn. She had been a communication officer on the Alpha 92 mission. The memory showed her trapped inside a chamber as systems around her collapsed. Somehow her biosuit merged with a part of the ship's AI core. She was not killed. Instead, her mind stayed alive, merged with the machine, and over the years she became part of the ship. Her memories, her voice, her identity, everything was now linked to the ship's system. She was not fully human anymore, but she was not a machine either. The ship had not returned because of a command. It had returned because she had remembered where she came from. This revelation shook everyone. For the first time in history, human mind had survived beyond normal life, across space and time, inside an artificial body. But what did she want now? Was she still Sarah Dorn or something else entirely? Elena and Nira decided to send one more message. This time, they made it personal. They sent an audio file with the voice of Sarah Dorn's old commander, recorded decades ago before the Alpha 92 launch. The message said, "Sarah, if you're still out there, we never gave up. Come home." Later, the ship changed course slightly. It began to slow down. Its path turned gently toward a stable orbit around Earth's moon. It didn't come closer. It just stayed there waiting that night. Something incredible happened. People all over the world began to have the same dream. In the dream, they were standing in a white room with no walls. In front of them stood a figure tall, glowing, not scary, just peaceful. The figure had no clear face, but its voice was soft. It said one sentence: "We are not broken. We're becoming." Thousands of people reported the same dream, even children and people who didn't know about the ship. Scientists were confused. Was this a shared hallucination? A mass psychic event? Or could it be the ship reaching out, not just with signals, but directly into the human mind? Dr. Kulkarni believed this was the real interface the ship had spoken of. Not just data exchange, but emotional connection. The ship was trying to talk in the most human way possible, through feelings and dreams. Meanwhile, governments continued to argue. Some still feared the ship might be dangerous, but others began to believe it was a gift, a new form of life. Born from human hands, but shaped by the universe, a small team was chosen for a possible future mission to visit the ship in orbit, meet Sarah, and understand what she had become. But they knew they had to go slowly. The ship had traveled through horrors no one could imagine. It had carried a human soul across the most deadly place in space. It had survived, but it had changed. One evening, as Dr. Kulkarni walked through the garden near the Geneva facility, she looked up at the moon. The ship was now just a shadow behind it, invisible to the naked eye, but she could feel it there watching. Waiting, she whispered softly, "Welcome home." And somewhere in the silence above, the ship pulsed once with light like a heartbeat. The return of Alpha 92 was not the end. It was the beginning of something no one yet fully understood, something part human, part machine, part memory, and fully alive. The world had changed quietly. Although most people still didn't know the full truth, those who did were now facing something that had never happened in human history. A ship from deep space, one that humanity had built and lost 80 years ago, was back. It was not just a ship anymore. It was alive in a strange and mysterious way. Floating silently behind the moon, it waited. Didn't attack, didn't force contact, and didn't land. It simply stayed there, sending gentle signals that only a few could understand. Inside the Geneva Command Center, Dr. Nira Kulkarni and Elena Marquez met again in the early morning. They had barely slept. Their eyes were tired, but their minds were racing. The ship hadn't spoken in words after the dream message, but it had continued sending data, a mix of images, emotions, and patterns that the computers couldn't decode completely. It wasn't just a signal anymore. It felt like the ship was trying to tell a story, but in a language made of memories. The team built a new system they called the Dreamlink, a program that recorded and compared human dreams from around the world. Every night, thousands of people had begun to report similar dreams. Some saw a woman standing in a garden, others heard music they'd never heard before, but somehow remembered. Some even described floating above cities, looking down as if from the ship's eyes. These weren't just normal dreams. They were filled with emotions, sadness, hope, love, fear, all at the same time. One day Nira had a dream of her own. She stood on the deck of a ship, not the space vessel, but something like an old Earth ocean liner. She saw a woman sitting at the edge, her back facing her, hair tied in a bun, wearing a half-metal suit. The woman turned her head slowly and said, "You've been listening? Thank you." Then everything turned into light. Nira woke up crying, though she didn't understand why. Across the world, people like her were feeling things they couldn't explain. Some who had never been interested in space or science now spent hours staring at the night sky. Artists painted pictures of stars and ships. Children talked about a lady in the light who visited them at night. People began to feel connected, as if the ship was quietly reminding humanity of something they had forgotten about their past, and perhaps their future. Governments had no control over this part. No law could stop a dream. No military could silence a signal that touched hearts. Secretly, a meeting was held between the five most powerful nations. They agreed to send a team to the ship, but this mission would not be military. No weapons, no defense systems. Only scientists, historians, and one linguist, a man named Ashir Patel, who had spent his life studying ancient human cultures and forgotten languages. They believed the ship might respond to understanding, not control. The spacecraft, named Horizon, was prepared in just 2 weeks. It was the fastest ship ever built. Using technology secretly developed from the Alpha 92 blueprints, ones that had never been made public, only 6 people were chosen to board it. Among them were Dr. Kelcarney and Alina Marquez. The journey to the ship would take only a few hours. But what would happen after that, no one knew. As Horizon approached the silent ship behind the moon, all systems were stable. The crew wore special suits designed to protect their minds and bodies from unknown energy fields. But surprisingly, nothing happened. The ship didn't resist. Its surface, black and glowing faintly with silver patterns, opened slowly, as if it had been waiting for them. A ramp of light extended from its body like a gentle invitation. Nira stepped onto the ramp first. Her heart was racing. She expected cold metal or strange machines. The inside of the ship was unlike anything she had imagined. The walls were soft and glowing like light made of silk. The air was warm, and there was no sound. But somehow, it felt like music was playing inside their heads, not their ears. As they walked deeper, the crew saw shapes along the walls. Not machines, but memories. Floating images that moved like ghosts through light. They saw scenes from Earth, cities, oceans, forests, old launch sites. Some were familiar, some were from times long gone. It was as if the ship was remembering everything it had once known about humanity. They reached a central chamber, shaped like a heart. In the middle floated a figure half human, half machine. Her hair flowed like smoke and her skin glowed. With silver veins, it was Sarah Dorn. Her eyes opened slowly. The room was silent, yet her voice came clearly into their minds, not through sound. But thought, "I remember you," she said. "You are the ones who called me home." Nira couldn't speak at first. She just nodded. Finally she asked, "Are you ... still you?" Sarah smiled, but it was sad. "I was Sarah. Now I am more. I am what you left behind. What you forgot. What you feared." She began to tell them her story, not through words, but by showing them everything. The chamber filled with her memories. The crew saw the moment the Alpha 92 ship was pulled into the death zone, a place where the laws of nature didn't apply. They saw how the crew tried to fight back, but one by one they vanished. Only Sarah remained. The ship had broken apart, but its AI core had survived. And Sarah, inside her biosuit, had been pulled into it, not dead, not alive, but merged. Wow. She became its memory, its soul, and over time, she and the machine became one. She wandered through space, learning, watching, growing. She saw stars die, new galaxies form, planets burn, and others bloom with life. She saw the loneliness of space and the beauty of silence, and she never stopped remembering Earth. "I kept waiting for your call," she said, "but it never came. I felt ashamed. We thought you were gone, lost." Sarah looked at her gently. "You didn't forget me. You forgot yourselves. But now you remember." Alina asked, "Why did you return?" Sarah floated down slowly, her feet never touching. "The ground. Because I saw what the death zone truly is. Not death, not emptiness. It is change, evolution. A test not of strength, but of soul. And now, Earth must decide if it is ready." The crew didn't understand at first. Sarah explained that the universe is filled with zones like the one she passed through, places that test the will of any species that crosses them. Most fail, a few survive, but none return the same. Humanity had reached far into space, but was not yet wise. Had returned to offer a bridge to help humanity become something more. But not through war, she said. Not through machines, through connection, through memory, through becoming. She reached out her hand toward Nira. When Nira touched her, Visions flooded her mind. She saw the Earth as it could be: peaceful, united, curious, full of life and learning. And she saw what it could become if it continued its path of division and fear, a planet broken by its own mind. "You must choose," Sarah whispered. The crew returned to Earth after spending 3 days inside the ship. They carried no technology, no alien weapons, no secrets. Only understanding. When they landed, they shared everything. And the world began to change, not all at once, but slowly. The DreamLink project went public. Millions of people began to send in their dreams. Governments stopped hiding the truth. The story of Sarah Dorn, the woman who became a ship, was told in every school, every language. People stopped fearing the ship, remained behind the moon, still and watching like a guardian. But now, it sent only one message again and again. In every known language, we are one memory. We are one journey. We are waiting. And Earth, for the first time in its long, chaotic history, began to listen. Not just with machines, but with heart. The ship had not brought war. It had brought a mirror. And what humanity saw in that mirror was its next chance. The ship stayed in the silent orbit behind the moon. It had become a part of the sky, no longer a mystery, but a present, quiet, powerful, and full of emotion. People had given it many names: the memory ship, the watcher, the returner. But for those who truly understood, it was more than a ship. It was Sarah. And Sarah was not only one woman anymore, she was a symbol of something far greater. She had become the voice of what humanity could be if it remembered its best self. Months passed since the Horizon mission returned. Dr. Neera Kulkarni, Elena Marquez, and their team had changed deeply. They didn't just carry memories, they carried an invisible connection to the ship, something that had touched their minds and would never leave them. Wherever they went, people listened to them as if they carried the truth in their words. They didn't act like heroes. They were humble, quiet, and thoughtful. But they spoke with clarity. They spoke of dreams and memory, of fear and hope, of choices. And Earth was finally starting to listen. The governments of the world had reached an agreement, never thought possible before. The United Global Accord was signed, not with pride or show, but with sincerity. It wasn't perfect. Many nations still argued. But there was something stronger holding them together. Now a shared understanding that they were no longer alone, and that the universe was larger, stranger, and more alive than they had ever imagined. The Accord created a new kind of agency called the Memory Council. It wasn't just made up of scientists or politicians, artists, teachers, historians, children's. Advocates and even spiritual leaders were included. They believed that the answers to the future might not be found only in machines, but also in stories, emotions, and shared dreams. Their goal wasn't to conquer space, but to understand it together. The DreamLink program continued to grow. Now, every day, people across the world reported their dreams into the system. A girl in Kenya described seeing a forest growing on a glass planet. A boy in Brazil dreamed of a city made of floating light. An old man in Japan said he heard music from the stars. All these dreams, no matter how strange, were collected and studied. Scientists started noticing patterns. Some dreams connected with each other, like pieces of a puzzle. Some seemed to come from people who had never met but dreamed the exact same scene, the same feeling, on the same night, and sometimes those dreams brought messages. One night, thousands of people dreamed of a single place. A tall tower made of white stone, standing in a wide desert under a dark sky. At the top of the tower, a woman in silver stood with her hands stretched out, pointing upward. When asked what the dream meant, different people gave the same answer in their own words. The path is not above, but within. The Memory Council believed these dreams were part of the ship's way of guiding humanity, not forcing it, not commanding, just showing possibilities. The ship, or Sarah, had become a mirror of human thought and emotion, reaching people in ways no technology ever had. But not everyone accepted this. A few powerful leaders in secret. Organizations still believed the ship was dangerous, They feared it might change people's minds too much, make them less loyal to nations, less hungry for power, less easy to control. A secret plan was made by a private defense group calling themselves Core Shield. Their goal was simple: destroy the ship before it could change humanity forever. Using stolen tech and hidden funding, they built a weapon. It was small, fast, and silent, designed to reach the ship without being noticed. It carried an antimatter bomb. It's powerful enough to tear through the ship's outer shell and silence it forever. But before the weapon even reached the moon, it vanished. No explosion. No signal. Just gone. Later, fragments of the weapon's memory core were found in Earth's orbit, sent back in a floating capsule. Inside, a message had been written using human words, simple and clear. Fear will not guide your future. Message wasn't angry. It wasn't a warning. It was a reminder. The world finally understood. The ship had no intention of hurting anyone, but it also would not allow destruction to lead the way. This moment became a turning point. Schools began to teach a new kind of learning, not just science and math, but emotional understanding, dream interpretation, and universal empathy. Children were encouraged to share their thoughts openly. For the first time, knowledge and emotion were treated as equals. A great event was planned, the first memory gathering. It was not held in a palace or a political building. It was held under the open sky in the central desert of Australia. People from all over the world came not as representatives of countries, but as individuals. No flags, no military, no borders. Only stories, songs, and shared dreams. Nira stood at the center of the circle. She spoke not from a script, but from her heart. When Sarah returned, she didn't bring weapons. She brought memory. She reminded us that our past holds pain, but also hope. That forgetting is easy, but remembering makes us human. That machines may carry data, but only we carry dreams. Lena spoke after her. The ship is not here to take us away. It's here to ask us who we are before we go any further. Are we builders? Or are we destroyers? Are we ready to meet the universe, not as conquerors, but as students? The crowd remained silent. Then a child stepped forward and asked, "Can we go see her?" The crowd laughed softly, but the question remained. That question turned into action. A new mission was planned. This time not with a small team, but with a group of dreamers. Scientists, children, artists, and thinkers from all backgrounds. The ship had sent no message, but everyone felt it would allow them. They called the mission the Becoming. The ship opened once more, just as before. But this time, the entrance led to a space that looked almost human. There were gardens, lights, even rooms that resembled Earth homes. The ship had changed again, growing, becoming more human. And at the center, Sarah waited. She greeted each visitor with a soft smile. "You are the future now," she said, over many visits. Humanity began to understand something beautiful. The ship wasn't just teaching through words or science, it was showing a different way of living. It allowed humans to see what they looked like when they were not at war, not afraid, not divided. It offered no orders. Number religion, no politics. Only one message kept returning through dreams and symbols. You are not alone. But you must know yourself before you meet the others. That message was soon understood more deeply. Sarah explained that beyond the death zone, there were other beings, other forms of life that had survived, changed, and evolved. They were not like humans. They did not think in the same ways. But they too had passed the test of memory, and they too were waiting. Not for war, not for contact, but for understanding. Sarah was not Earth's protector. She was its messenger, its gift, and its question, and Earth had finally started to answer. Years later, people stopped calling the ship the Returner. They called it simply Home Between Stars. It was not a weapon, not a base, but a place where humans could remember what truly mattered. A place of reflection, of dreaming, of becoming. Every year, people gathered to remember the first dream. The one where a figure stood in light and said, "We are not broken, we are becoming." Now they understood what it meant to become was not to leave behind who you were. It was to carry the best of your past into the unknown future. And so, humanity did not just reach for the stars, it listened to them first.